Hello everybody and welcome back to my Moments of Love. My name is Wemi and joining me today is my special guest, Miss Fiara. Miss Fiara is excited for her first feature. Yeah, it's her first feature and she's very excited by all the lights and camera, right? Yeah. So, if you haven't guessed it by the title and by the presence of this lovely girl, today's video we're going to be talking all about Miss Fiara's journey to join our little family. In my last video, I had requested for you guys to tell me what you would like from me and what you've missed over the last few years. And one of the comments and responses was essentially about Fiara and how her pregnancy was and Alayo's reaction and all of that. So I figured we'll get into this video. We're going to make it a two-parter. I'm saying that ahead of time just because I know it's going to get long, so it might be easier to split it into two. In the first part, we're going to talk about the pre-journey, I guess, to Fiara. And then the second part, we'll just talk about Miss Fiara. So, let's get started. So, Fiara is joining us today. She is officially 6 months old. I can't believe she's already been here for half a year. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? That's her response. Let's get started. So as many of you know, and I think I might have shared when we introduced you guys to Fiara, that after I had Alayo, it was quite a journey, both his pregnancy, the delivery, and the postpartum recovery. So that essentially set us on we're done, one and done. I was never completely at peace about that. I prayed about that for many years, and we even considered going down the road. Can you believe it? The gasp. We weren't going to have you join us. How dare us, right? How dare us? We considered many journeys. We considered adoption. We considered surrogacy, again, just so that my body wouldn't have to go through that craziness all over again. We consulted with our doctors many times. I think my OB got tired of me because I was always requesting appointments just to sit and talk. And I'm sure she's like, listen, I got work to do. I can't just be sitting here talking to you, repeating the same thing every year. Because I'm pretty sure I saw her every year. Just like, hey, so if we did this again, how would it work again? Remind me one more time. And eventually, I think it was 2018, I had an appointment with her in July, and we went and sat with her and just kind of chatted about what she would recommend and how we could best avoid complications, and what she thinks my complication risk would be, kind of a repeat, what would be my risk of repeating what happened with Alayo. And it all boiled down to blood exchange transfusions and early start of aspirin. With Alayo, I didn't start aspirin until I was well into my second trimester. By that point, it's a little bit late because the goal of aspirin in pregnancy is to help the placenta develop a healthy start, because once your placenta is able to develop healthily, it mitigates a lot of risks down the line. So with Alayo, I wasn't aware of that. Somehow that got missed in communication with my OB. And I didn't start aspirin until, as I said, well, I was definitely over halfway through my pregnancy when I started aspirin. So they were like, you can start at this point, but it's not gonna make much of a difference because the placenta's already kind of done its growth. So whereas she said, once I got pregnant again, they would have me start it immediately. They would immediately put me on exchange transfusions, which is where they take out your blood and replace it. Your blood, your red cells, essentially. So that's essentially how that went. How that would go was her advice. And for the first part of the 2 years after Alayo was born, I knew that exchange transfusions would be on the table. I wasn't really on board with them. I didn't feel comfortable. But for some reason at that last appointment, I felt like I could do this. You know, I felt ready. I felt at peace with going forward and engaging in transfusions, knowing that, hey, if that's all I need to do, and I say that's all very lightly, but if that's what I need to do and that would eliminate everything else that happened, why not? I felt more comfortable with it, and Dave and I talked about it for a while. We prayed on it, and we both felt ready to embark on a journey to grow our family. So that was, as I said, around, it might have been July, August 2018 was when we sort of made that decision. I say 2018, no, was it 2018 or 20? No, it was 2019. I lied, it was 2019. Because it was much after we moved in here, because we kind of moved in here with the assumption of like we'll be a family of 3. We bought a house that would allow us to grow and fit comfortably in this home. Never ever thinking that we would be a family of 4. I had said, nope, not happening. I didn't want to buy a house that's too big, because it'll kind of get my mind wanting more. Like, no, buy a house that fits just us and be done. So like we made life decisions based on this. So fast forward a year later after moving in here, and Wemi's like, let's grow our family. We didn't buy the house for that, Wemi. So that decision was made, as I said, in 2019. And we then, I guess, started trying. So it took a little bit while to get around, but whatever, we got there. And as you guys know, pandemic hit February 2020, and we had our first positive pregnancy test in August 2020. It was right around our anniversary, so it was end of August. Super excited. I will put in a clip of Alayo's reaction. I don't know if I got his reaction, but I definitely got him telling Dave. I recorded the whole deal. What's up, Missy? I recorded the whole deal. I made him a little shirt that said Big Brother as he went down to go tell Dave. Here you go. You're going to take that. And you're going to say, Dad, I have a surprise for you. And you're going to give him that.
Dad, I have a surprise for you.
And then you're going to say, I'm going to be a big brother. Okay? All right, let's go. Good hiding.
I'm a big brother. Because the shirt says big brother.
I'll give it to him.
Look.
You see?
You know what? I went up to it. It is backwards. But just go with the flow, Dad. Hi. But it was just kept between the 3 of us. I didn't even tell my mom at that time, and she lived with us, and I didn't tell her. Unfortunately, about a week or 2 later, we experienced a loss at that point. And it was ironic because it was a very ironic day, the day that it happened. I woke up that morning and I was like, okay, I'm ready to tell my mom, let's do this. And I was going to tell her that day, and my mom doesn't. It was a pandemic. She never goes out, but her friend happened to get admitted to the hospital that day. So she left the house very early in the morning. It was a Sunday. Was it a Sunday or a Saturday? I got to think. I'm not sure, but she left the house very early, so she was gone before I woke up. I'm like, okay, it's fine. I was like, I'll wait. I'll tell her when she comes home. And my mom, again, doesn't usually go out, even if she does go out, it's not for long. On this day, she happened to be gone the entire day. She didn't get back home until about 8 p.m. And by the time she got home, the loss I experienced, the bleeding and stuff started around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So it was just kind of a crazy whirlwind of emotions I was all excited to tell her, and now I'm going to be telling her something different. So it wasn't a happy day. It was not a happy day, and I believe it was the day before our anniversary, so it was just not a good time. But I told her, and we all kind of, Alaya was sad. He obviously didn't fully grasp the whole thing, but we essentially just moved it on hey, your little sibling's not going to join us now, but we're going to keep praying and we're going to keep it in our prayers, and your baby brother or sister will join us. So as I said, that was August, and Elio essentially made it his daily prayer ever since that moment. And so I was kind of glad, because usually people say, you don't tell your kids these things. I was a little bit glad that we did share it with him, because he just felt so connected on the journey. He prayed at his little prayers every night. He'd be like, God, and I pray for my baby brother or sister. And I can't wait till he or she joins us. And he would say that prayer. And then at some point, he changed it to a sister. I'm like, oh gosh, this is awkward. Because I didn't want you don't want your kid to be disappointed. Like, hey, we don't control these things. We can pray. Doesn't mean we get what we want. But you can always ask, right? So it was if this doesn't work out, it has to be a life learning moment, a teachable moment, as I like to call them. But so that was August. So he, as I said, would pray about it every day. And fast forward to January 8th, 2021, ironically it was Boxing Day, so December 26th, I decided to get my exercise life on, okay? I ordered a rowing machine, and it got delivered on January 8th, ironically, the day that I got my positive test. I got my positive test in the morning. The exercise machine came in that evening. Dave's birthday is January 9th. So when I took that test in the morning, I was very apprehensive, obviously having experienced a loss on the previous positive test. I was very, very, very nervous. I didn't even want to tell Dave, but I knew that I couldn't keep it. I just knew I'm not very good at keeping those types of things. I grin from here to New York is the way my grin is when there's something good. I can't hide my emotions, especially on good news. So he knew before I even said a word. I tried to keep it, and he tried to pretend. He tried to play along that he knew nothing was happening, even though he could tell. But I told him that morning, told Elio as well. And we asked him not to tell anybody. We said it's just between the three of us. It's a family secret. Actually, no, I lied. We didn't tell him yet. We didn't tell him that yet. No, we did. Actually, I lied. We did tell him that. So and then that same day, I went down and I told my mom. And Elia goes down the next day just singing, all happy. He's like, I'm going to have a baby sister. This is how he said it. He said, Mom and Dad and I, we prayed every day. And on January 8th, God put a baby in Mommy's belly. It's like, dude. So he was extremely excited. He called it as a girl from day one, from jump. He just said he knew, and he was always like, I'm going to have a baby sister. And I'm like, dude, what if it's a boy? He's like, no, I want a sister. That's what I want. I'm going to have a little sister. And we're like, okay. It's like, we'll keep praying with you, because, oh gosh. So that's how that whole experience went. As I said, it was January. I immediately called my medical team and let them know, literally, obviously, that same day I called them. It was what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Say hi. What's up, people? I think Missy might want to leave. Do you want to leave? You want Dad? You're probably hungry, aren't you? Yeah. We're going to get Dad. As we were. She may or may not be back. We'll see. But as we were, I'm trying to keep everything. Hopefully I'm not getting too rambly here. I'm just trying to give you guys all the details that we normally would have captured in vlogs if we were vlogging. But we weren't, and because of the apprehension, I probably would have been even more apprehensive to share it if we were vlogging at the time. So I didn't really capture a lot of video footage. The first pregnancy test we got back in 2020, I did capture those moments. And then when it happened again, I was just like, nope, I'm not capturing this, because as I said, I called my doctors. So yeah, let's get back to the story. I called my doctors that day, and everyone kind of set off the right trickling effect of who's going to call me back, who's going to set up an appointment. We got all that going. Fast forward to 2 days later, we were having dinner, and my stomach felt like, oh, I don't feel right. I think I'm bleeding. And I go to the bathroom, and there's some blood. So I was devastated. I mean, incredibly devastated. And it wasn't like, the funny thing was, without, TMI, hey, if you don't like hearing about blood, I mean, you shouldn't be watching this video. So I'm just gonna get right into it, because I like to share things for those who, go through these experiences as well. It wasn't a normal bleeding situation. I've experienced a couple of miscarriages now, so I've kind of been down that road before. It was lighter, but it felt like the start. I'm like, hey, it was essentially spotting. We'll call it spotting. It was spotting, so I was nervous. I'm like, okay, is it spotting? Is it bleeding? And when it comes to things like that, you just gotta wait and see. So I literally went to the bathroom every 30 minutes that entire night. And it never got worse, but it never got better. It was the same. It was never like, I never went to the bathroom and felt a huge gush of blood. I never had a bunch of blood, but whenever I would go to the bathroom and wipe myself, there was always a little bit of blood, just a little bit. So I was very scared, very nervous. There were a lot of tears, a lot of prayer. And it kept going like that for about a week and a half. I kept going and doing my blood work. I had 3 rounds of blood work, 3 or 4 rounds that I did. And my levels were always going up in the right direction, as well as the right exponential ratio. So I felt confident in that regards, like, okay, numbers are going up. But if you guys remember my videos with Alaya, when I had my loss before Alaya, my numbers were always going up. Even after having the miscarriage confirmed as a miscarriage, my numbers still kept going up. So because of that, I wasn't confident that my numbers going up meant things were good. Talked to my doctor, and he said, hey, don't be worried. Try not to get too concerned. This is a normal part of a lot of pregnancy for women. People experience spotting as implantation happens and baby snugly gets in there. I'm like, okay, I will not be scared, kept my prayers up. And next thing I know, I had all my appointments set up. I had my first ultrasound scheduled for 7.5 weeks, which for anyone in those first few weeks of pregnancy, the 4 weeks when you find out and 7 weeks for ultrasound feels like eternity. Those 3 weeks are one of the longest weeks ever as you are waiting to confirm your pregnancy on ultrasound. Like when I tell you it's the longest 3 weeks, longest 3 weeks, y'all. I tried everything to keep myself busy, to not think about it, and stay focused, stay positive. And I was also trying to do things to kind of like, you know what, it's going to happen, Wemi, it's going to happen. That's when I started moving my office out here, because we knew Fiara's room would now be going into my office. So I started making those types of things and just those types of plans anyways. I wasn't buying anything by any means, but I was making plans of, hey, if things go well, here's what we'll do. Started getting all that stuff set up. It was actually before my ultrasound. 2 days before my ultrasound appointment, I had my first appointment with the transfusion clinic. They're called the apheresis unit. With them, and they explained to me exactly how transfusions would work. I talked to my doctor, I talked to the specialist there as well, and asked about the difference between an exchange transfusion, a partial exchange and a full exchange. And they essentially told me that they would recommend I do a full exchange, because the problem with the partial is it may work, it may not work. Same thing with the full, it may not work, but the chances of success are higher with a full exchange versus a partial exchange. And with a partial exchange, if I go down that route, by the time they realize it's not working, it would be too late, and the only recourse would be, let's go to full. So if we're gonna go to full anyway, why not just start with full, where you have the best chance of success? That's what it boils down to. So after some talking, my husband and I talked about it and we decided to go ahead with the full exchange. I'll explain to you guys who may not be aware what a full exchange is versus a partial exchange. A partial transfusion is when they remove your blood and they remove everything, and not everything, they remove a certain number of units of blood from your body and they put it back in a certain number of units. In this case, it would be about, I think it was about 5 units of blood is what they said. 4 or 5 they would remove and put 4 or 5 back in. So I'd keep, my own 4 or 5 essentially. And then just get 5 healthy ones. And the specialist explained that the problem is because of how quickly sickled red blood cells change and die, that would probably only last me about 2 weeks of full health. Whereas a full exchange gives you about a month. So it was also a thing of you'd have to be coming in every 2 weeks to do this. Whereas a full, you get a month, and it takes about a month before things start to break down, which is why they do it about a month, and then they give you, I think it's actually 3 weeks. Around 3 weeks, it starts to break down. So they give you 4 weeks, and that's how they do the process. So we agreed to that. I had my first ultrasound 2 days later, and I think a week later, I had my first exchange transfusion. My exchange transfusion, the process is you go in there, they hook you up to a machine, and the machine is really, really cool. I can insert some clips or footage because I did a lot of photos and stuff. I thought it was kind of cool. And it would remove your blood. You got inserted with a needle that would divert into 3, I want to call them pipes, but they're not called pipes. And I don't know why the word isn't coming to me right now. But it would divert into 3 lines. We'll call them lines. And the lines essentially would separate your plasma from your red cells from, what's the other thing your blood is made of? Your white cells, I think. It would separate them all, and they would go through this machine, and this machine would mix the good stuff you're keeping. It would keep your plasma, and you kept your, is it the plasma that you keep? I don't remember. Yeah, you keep your plasma, you give away they take out your red blood cells. So you keep that, and they take that and mix it into new blood and put it back into your arm. So essentially both arms are in use. One arm is for an exit, the other arm is for an entry. So on exit, you have 1 needle in that splits up to 3 lines, and you have 1 needle coming in, that's a single tube. And the tubes were super thick, the needles were high gauge. I can't remember the numbers because I didn't focus on those details. But that's essentially how it worked. The entire process, it would empty you and replenish in about 2 hours, which is also kind of a reason why I agreed to this. The partial takes about 4 to 6 hours to do a partial, whereas the full takes 2 hours, because with a full, the machine's doing all of the work, whereas at a partial, they're manually draining you and manually putting it. And when I say it's still a needle, but it's going through a regular drip, a regular IV style, whereas the full exchange goes through a machine which does a lot of work, and they can control the speed, they can control so much more, and they're able to get it done quicker and better. And they essentially would empty me. I think I ended up doing 10 or 12 units of blood. I can't remember now. I wrote this all down. So they would do all that. So I went in and I did that every single month, starting at 7 weeks for the duration of my pregnancy. My last one was a week before Fiara was born. And honestly, the first couple of appointments were not great because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. For example, they tell you, I didn't know this ahead of time. I was like, oh, I'll be able to eat there or this. No. You should have your lunch before you come with a full stomach, be well hydrated. It's in hindsight, common sense. My first appointment, I was starving. The nurse was nice enough to go in the fridge and find me a tuna sandwich, a very, very, very cold tuna sandwich. And it was, this small because it was for like hospital meals. So it was super tiny. I was a starving pregnant woman. It wasn't pretty. I almost like passed out at that first appointment. Not good. And just being a sickle cell person, a lot of us have terrible veins. And we know this. So usually if I have an appointment, I try to hydrate a lot so that my veins have the best chance of popping up. As I said, I went to first appointment, dehydrated, didn't have enough to drink that day. So getting my veins was a nightmare. And especially when they're using bigger needles, so they need good, almost arterial-like veins. Impossible to find. They used an ultrasound machine, which I'll also insert. That was kind of cool. Use an ultrasound machine to find your veins. It was a disaster. I cried. It hurt so much. Second appointment was a little bit better, but by the third one, I got a hang of it. I knew what to do. I knew what to eat. I always ate the right thing. I always ate really spicy food before going. The reason I did that was because it forced me to drink more water. Because if I ate a regular meal, I just didn't drink as much. But when you're eating spicy food, you just, throwing back the water. So I always ate super spicy Thai food on the way there. And then I would drink like 2 of these Starbucks cups in the hour before my appointment. So did I have to pee? Oh yeah. But my veins were looking sweet, which made the process hurt less. So anyways, that's essentially what I did, what my team and I did, what God and I did, what we all did to get Miss Fiara here safely and healthy. It really helped. As I said, I was very much apprehensive. And just to kind of backtrack, the other option was to stay on a drug that I do take for sickle cell, hydroxyurea. They gave me that option. You could stay on that drug or you can do exchange transfusions. I felt more comfortable with the risks of transfusions than I did with the risks of medication. Reason being, the major risks of transfusions with developing antibodies is a huge risk, and just obviously like the blood you're receiving blood products comes with its own list of risks and stuff. So that was it. So there were known risks, is essentially what it boiled down to. Transfusions have known risks, whereas medication had a little bit less of known risk. We don't know because there's not enough people who take this drug to have a large enough sample size to know, one, people who take this drug is already a smaller sample size. It's even smaller when you look for people who take this drug while pregnant. Very, very, I think my doctor said about 20 people. So not at all a confident sample size for me to feel okay going down that route. Whereas transfusions, a lot more people undergo transfusions, and even there's way more who undergo transfusions normally, and then there's more pregnant people who undergo transfusions than there are pregnant people who take the drug. So sample size wise, numbers wise, I felt more comfortable going down that path. So those are the reasons why we chose to go down that path. And as I said, I started 2 low-dose aspirins the day I got my positive test. I knew that ahead of time. I had been told that by my doctor, by my OB, by my hematologist OB as well. I had 3 main people following me, and they had already all told me the day you get your positive, start taking 2 low-dose aspirins. So those are the medical interventions that I engaged in, or whatever, throughout the process of my pregnancy for those 9 months. And Miss Fiara was born via scheduled C-section. And yeah, it went extremely smoothly compared to Alayo. You guys know I didn't get to meet Alayo until about 4 hours after he was born. I didn't get to hold him until 2 days after he was born. And we weren't in the same room at all until 2 weeks after he was born, sleeping in the same room. So whereas Miss Fiara was born via scheduled C-section, I have photos that Dave took of her as she was pulled out of my stomach. The anesthesiologist was like, "Hey, Dad, get your camera ready. Baby's coming out." And good on Dave. He got some amazing shots. You can literally see her, half her legs were half her body was still inside me and half was out. Beautiful picture. I will not insert that because I know not everybody wants to see those gory photos, but it was beautiful to me. It was honestly an amazing experience. I was awake throughout the whole thing. Dave was by my side the entire time. Even with COVID, we both had to wear masks in the OR. No big deal. We kept our masks. We had Fiara immediately. She came out. Dave went over, cut the cord, did all that, brought her back, put her on my chest, and that's where she stayed till we came home. My girl was with me the whole time. That experience, I wouldn't beautiful. Compared to what I went through with Alayo, it was amazing. It was an amazing redemption of a pregnancy journey to me and a delivery journey and a recovery journey. My incision recovered, healed beautifully, no complications whatsoever, none. My OB, knowing what happened last time, she put me on a double dose of antibiotics while in the hospital, and it's just via IV. So instead of 1 round, they did 2 rounds. 0 complications, healed beautifully. She even cleaned up my incision while in there, while doing the C-section. I'd asked her ahead of time, like, hey, there's a lot of scar tissue in there from Alayo. Can you clean that up while you have me opened? And she's like, we typically don't do that because we want to get what we need to get done, and we don't want to just linger. And I'm like, I get it, it's fine. It's a vanity thing. It doesn't actually affect my day-to-day life at all, so it's fine. And she's like, okay, cool. She asked me, she said, is it very keloid? And I said, no, it's not bad. And she goes, okay, then yeah, whatever happens, happens. And I said, sounds good. Y'all, when it healed, oh my gosh, it healed beautifully. And I'm like, she cut out all the scar tissue because it was so bumpy before. Now it's as smooth as ever. So yeah, all that to say, it was a very, very beautiful journey and process to Miss Fiara joining us. There isn't a whole lot to share. Otherwise, I will insert clips and such of her or ultrasounds. That obviously I had to go by myself because COVID, no one could come. What we did do though, we did a couple of private ultrasounds. We did the anatomy. So right before my anatomy scan, we did a private ultrasound at a 3D place so that we could find out the gender together as a family, because I really wanted Alayo to be there because he was so invested in this and I wanted him there. So we paid for a private one and we did one and we found out she was a girl. I have that video. Dave did film that. I will insert that. Alayo was so happy that he was right. And so was I, y'all, because I was not ready for that conversation. I was very happy. So yeah, I have that video. He thinks it's a girl.
And I just wanted to be healthy. I don't care.
But you have to guess.
He probably thinks it's a boy.
He probably thinks it's a boy.
Okay, we're half.
Yep.
We will see.
He was right. So,
Wow. And then, oh, the kid is up. You see the kid up?
The kitty.
Mommy was
Do you want to
right.
stand? You can stand up there if you
Mommy
want.
was right.
It's a girl. Yay, you're right.
What?
I'm pretty sure I don't see
You
anything
see it
between those
here?
lines.
Yeah, nothing there.
It's a girl!
Looks like a princess.
It's a girl! You're getting it now!
Oh, he likes to have a sister.
Yeah.
That's yeah, I'm just double,
Are you
triple
looking
checking.
at it?
It looks like a princess, that's it.
God, I can't see anything like
You
it.
can't see
See
it.
the leg?
Uh,
Do you see leg? That's a
no,
bump.
I can't see it.
Dad, you want to point to the report? We did another private ultrasound towards the end of her pregnancy, just to, again, give everybody a chance to experience it together since no one could come to any of my appointments with me. So we did a couple of private ones and we did record those. I can insert pictures and stuff of that, and I will do that towards the end of the video. I think I got it all covered. As I said, pregnancy went smoothly. In terms of morning sickness, like that usual first trimester stuff, mine was mainly fatigue. I was extremely fatigued. Water was disgusting. Water smells disgusting. It tasted disgusting. I couldn't drink water, y'all. I tried. Lord knows I did. I could not. So eventually I started to drink tea, was what I did. Dave said, you know what, at least drink your loose leaf teas, caffeine free, and that can at least still keep you a little bit hydrated, because I also wasn't eating. I had zero appetite. Everything was disgusting to me. I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking for my first 3 months of pregnancy. I was very scared about that, but the doctors reassured me that it happens to a lot of people. You just do your best, and your best is enough. That's not going to be what affects your pregnancy, essentially. But they said just do the very best you can. You know, try, but don't force it. Don't feel bad about it. So yeah, teas. Hint for people out there, if you ever go through that with pregnancy where water is disgusting to you, try some teas because it disguises the taste a little bit more. It's not adding to your calorie count. It's not making you fatter. It's not soda where you're getting sugar and all of that. There's like no sugar. Yeah, just try basic loose leaf flavored type of teas, okay? Safe ones. I wouldn't go ham on raspberry leaf by any means because I don't think that's good in the start of pregnancy. I think it's fine towards the end, but not in the beginning because it helps your uterus contract, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, so safe teas got me through, absolutely. Second trimester, my cravings were tomatoes, strawberries. I could not get enough of tomatoes and strawberries. Could not get enough. I was eating tomatoes like on everything. And I don't even like tomatoes like that. But that was my thing, y'all. Tomatoes and strawberries. And then all things sweet. With Alio, I had no sweet cravings. My cravings were spicy and salty. I remember I used to OD on fries. It was me and fries. Fries, fries, fries. With Fiara, everything sweet. I had such a sweet tooth. Give me all the ice cream. Ice cream was my go-to. And also being a summer pregnancy, listen, I had ice cream or popsicles or something every single day of my pregnancy. I was actually scared for the glucose test. I'm like, oh no, am I gonna fail my glucose test? Because I have been going ham on sugar. Thankfully, I guess I balanced it enough that I was fine. But yeah, that was how that went cravings-wise. I'm trying to make sure I got everything else covered. I didn't have any issues. I was hiking through my pregnancy. If you follow me on Instagram, you know throughout 2020, we were always going on hikes like every weekend. So as the weather was nice enough, it wasn't raining and the ground wasn't wet, we were out for a hike. So I was hiking and we were doing about 5 kilometers on our hikes. So I was active. With Alio, I couldn't even walk down the stairs, y'all. But with Miss Fee, I was hiking all the time. I was very active throughout my pregnancy until the end, I would say, where I started to have a lot of pelvic issues. And then I just said, I've been active enough. Let me go lay on a couch for the next month. And that was what I did. But yeah, so that is my pregnancy story and journey for Miss Fiara. She was born at 38.5 weeks, I believe was what we did. Completely healthy, 0 issues. If you want to see her little pictures and stuff, it's all on my Instagram at wemi. Yeah, I think that's it. I still have marks on my arms from all of my transfusions. They really scarred up my arms. I can't really pull this sleeve up. It's a very tight sleeve. I can insert a photo of that over here as well because I made sure to commemorate that in my pregnancy photo shoot. I commemorated just my arm scars from all my transfusions. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I will be back hopefully with Miss Fiara to share the last 6 months and how things have been going as a mom of 2 and how Miss Fiara has been hopefully loving us. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye now.
Oh, bless you. Oh, don't cry for mommy. You already miss her tummy?
Like, what a change!
Yeah, exactly.
My world has just changed.
Mommy, you're so cozy.